We live in an age of constant noise. Our minds are restless, our hearts uncertain. Every moment demands our attention, yet peace feels further away than ever. But the wisdom we seek is not new. It's timeless. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man named Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, and seeker of truth, wrote about the same struggles we face today: fear, distraction, the search for meaning in a chaotic world. His words remind us that peace does not come from changing the world around us, but from mastering the world within us.
We often believe that our peace depends on what happens around us, on circumstances, other people, luck, or fate. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us that true peace begins with something much smaller, yet infinitely more powerful: the way we think. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words hold more truth today than ever before. In a world flooded with noise and endless information, our attention is constantly pulled in every direction. Every notification, every headline, every opinion is a tiny spark, lighting a fire in the mind. And soon we are burning with anxiety, anger, comparison, and confusion, reacting to everything, yet controlling nothing. Marcus understood that the greatest battlefield is not the empire outside, but the empire within. He ruled over millions, yet he knew that the hardest person to govern was himself. He practiced watching his own thoughts, as if standing above them, not letting them drag him into chaos. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Think about that. It means that no insult, no disappointment, no loss can truly harm us, unless we allow our mind to interpret it as harm. The event itself is neutral. The story we tell ourselves about it gives it power. How often do we let our thoughts spiral out of control? Someone ignores a message, and our mind fills in the silence with stories of rejection. A single comment online can ruin an entire day. A plan doesn't go as expected, and suddenly we imagine failure, shame, regret. None of these are facts. They're interpretations, judgments, illusions created by our restless mind. Marcus teaches us that the first act of freedom is to pause, to look at our thoughts before they control us, to ask, is this thought true? Is it useful? Or is it just noise? When we pause, something changes. The storm quiets. We begin to see clearly again. It is not that we stop feeling. Marcus never said to suppress emotions. He simply said, do not become their slave. Feel anger, but do not let anger drive your actions. Feel fear, but do not let fear decide your path. The wise person does not silence emotion. He observes it, understands it, and chooses how to respond. This is what it means to control the mind, not to dominate it with force, but to understand it with patience. Just as a rider learns the temperament of his horse, we must learn the nature of our own thoughts. Only then can we guide them, instead of being dragged by them. Every day, Marcus practiced mental discipline like a soldier sharpening his sword. He reminded himself that his mind was his most sacred possession. If he could master that, nothing could truly disturb him. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So he chose his thoughts carefully, not to escape reality, but to face it with clarity and courage. Today, we rarely guard our thoughts with such devotion. We scroll endlessly, consuming the emotions of millions of strangers. We absorb anger, envy, fear, and then wonder why we feel heavy and lost. Marcus would tell us, what you allow into your mind shapes who you become. If you feed your mind chaos, it will create chaos within you. If you feed it wisdom, silence, gratitude, it will grow peaceful and strong. To control the mind is not a single act, but a lifelong discipline. It begins each morning in the first few moments after you wake. What do you reach for? Your phone or your breath? What do you focus on? What you lack or what you have? Marcus began each day by reminding himself that he could not control the world, but he could control his attitude toward it. He prepared his mind for the inevitable challenges so that when they came, he met them not with shock, but with calm acceptance. Imagine starting your day this way, not as a victim of the world, but as its observer. When someone insults you, you pause. When something fails, you learn. When life feels unfair, you remind yourself it was never promised to be fair, only to be lived. And suddenly, the chaos outside begins to lose its grip. Marcus wrote often about the present moment, the only space where the mind truly has power. We suffer when our thoughts wander into the past, clinging to what cannot be changed, or race into the future, fearing what has not yet arrived. But right now, in this breath, in this heartbeat, the mind can be still. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. That is where peace lives." In our age, this wisdom feels radical. We are taught to multitask, to always move, to always consume. But control of the mind begins with stillness, a simple awareness of being here now. When you breathe deeply and notice the world around you, you step out of the storm and return to yourself. Marcus would also remind us that self-control is not cold detachment. It is compassion born from understanding. When you control your thoughts, you can forgive more easily, because you see that anger hurts you more than anyone else. You can listen without reacting, speak without resentment, and act without ego. The controlled mind is not a prison, it is liberation from emotional slavery. There will always be moments of weakness, moments when you lose your calm. Marcus had them too. He wrote his meditations not as a teacher to others, but as a student to himself. Each line was a reminder, a whisper, "Come back, return to reason, remember who you are." That is the essence of control, not perfection, but awareness and return. So when anxiety rises, when the mind races with fears and what-ifs, remember the words of the emperor philosopher. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Say them quietly. Let them become your anchor. Because the world will always test you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. But if your mind remains steady, if you refuse to surrender your peace, you become unshakable. And perhaps that is what Marcus wanted most for us. Not to escape life's storms, but to stand within them, calm and clear, knowing that nothing external can command the freedom of your inner world. This is the first step of timeless wisdom, to realize that your mind is the origin of your peace, the lens through which you experience every moment, and the only thing in the universe that truly belongs to you.
There are moments in life when no amount of strength, planning, or wisdom can change what is unfolding. The phone call that ends a chapter of your life, the loss you didn't expect, the silence that replaces someone's voice, the opportunity that never returns. We fight these moments. We resist them, argue with them, replay them endlessly in our minds, as if resistance itself could bend time. But Marcus Aurelius, with a clarity born of endless struggle, wrote, "Welcome every experience the looms of fate may weave for you." He understood what so few of us do, that much of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our refusal to accept them. We want the world to obey our plans, to follow our expectations, And when it doesn't, we feel wronged, as if the universe has made a mistake. But in truth, the universe has never made a mistake. Only we, in our limited vision, fail to see the whole pattern. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It does not mean indifference. It means looking directly at reality, without distortion, without denial, and saying, "This too belongs." Marcus lived through war, betrayal, and plague. He lost children. He buried friends. He ruled an empire that often seemed to crumble faster than he could rebuild it. And yet, he continued to write words of calm and gratitude. He wrote, "Whatever happens to you was prepared for you from all eternity, and the thread of causes was woven together with your own existence." This is not fatalism, it is freedom. Because when you accept what is, you stop wasting your energy on what cannot be undone. Your strength, instead of scattering against the walls of fate, begins to move in harmony with it. You act wisely, not reactively. You move with life, not against it. How much of our pain comes from trying to resist what's already true? We cling to the idea of control over time, people, outcomes. We say, "This shouldn't have happened," but it did, and no amount of wishing will change that fact. Marcus would say, "Stop fighting with reality." He wrote, "Love only what happens to you and what is woven into the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs." At first, this sounds impossible. How can we love what hurts us? How can we accept loss, injustice, illness, or failure? But he did not mean that we should celebrate pain, only that we should recognize it as a part of life's natural rhythm. To deny pain is to deny half of existence. To accept it is to be whole. When we accept the inevitable, we are not giving up. We are aligning ourselves with truth. We stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What now?" We stop replaying the past and start moving forward with quiet dignity. Acceptance transforms suffering into meaning. Imagine standing in the rain. You can curse the sky, demand the clouds to stop, run for shelter, and still get wet. Or you can breathe deeply, feel the water on your skin, and understand this is what it means to be alive. The storm passes either way, but only one way brings peace. Marcus taught that every event is an opportunity to practice virtue, patience, courage, humility, gratitude. Even misfortune can serve a higher purpose if the mind is ready to see it. He wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." In other words, whatever happens to you, use it. Let it refine you, not destroy you. The modern world runs from discomfort. We are taught that happiness is the absence of pain. But Marcus knew better. Happiness is harmony with nature, even when nature is harsh. We cannot stop winter from coming, but we can prepare our hearts for its cold. We cannot stop the river from changing course, but we can learn to flow with it. Every ending is also a beginning. We just rarely see it that way at first. Loss clears space for growth. Silence makes room for reflection. Failure teaches humility, and humility opens the path to wisdom. Acceptance is not an emotion. It is a practice. It begins with a single breath, a surrender not to defeat, but to reality. In that breath, the weight you carry starts to lift. You begin to see that nothing is truly taken from you, only transformed. Marcus wrote his meditations not as philosophy, but as survival. He reminded himself each morning that the world would test him. People would be ungrateful, plans would fall apart, the body would grow weak. But none of that could rob him of his peace if he met it with acceptance. He said, "Do not be surprised. The world is what it is. You have come to this moment prepared." Acceptance also teaches compassion. When we accept our own pain, we become gentler with the pain of others. We no longer demand perfection, not from life, not from people. We see everyone, including ourselves, as part of the same unfolding story. And from that understanding, forgiveness becomes possible. To accept the inevitable is to live without resentment. It is to stop arguing with the past, to stop chasing the illusion that things could have been otherwise, because they couldn't. They happened exactly as they did, shaped by causes stretching back through time, far beyond your control. The wise man does not waste his days trying to rewrite yesterday. He uses what remains of today to build tomorrow. So when something breaks, let it break. When someone leaves, let them go. When a door closes, let it close. The universe is always rearranging itself to move you forward, even when it feels like loss. Acceptance is not resignation. It is trust. Trust that life knows what it's doing. Trust that you are part of something larger, something beyond your limited vision. When you stop clinging, life begins to flow through you instead of against you. Marcus Aurelius faced death, disease, and despair, and yet he wrote of joy, gratitude, and peace, because he understood the secret of acceptance. You cannot control the waves, but you can learn to ride them. You cannot stop the wind. You can adjust your sails. And in doing so, you become one with the rhythm of life itself. Acceptance is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of wisdom. It is the quiet realization that the universe owes you nothing, and yet it gives you everything you need to grow. When fate turns its wheel, do not curse it. Bow your head, breathe, and whisper the words Marcus might have said to himself on the darkest nights. This too is part of nature. This too is meant for me. And in that moment, you will find peace, not because the world has changed, but because you have.
In an age obsessed with recognition, validation, and external success, the idea of virtue feels almost forgotten. We are taught to measure our worth by how others see us, by numbers, by praise, by comparison. But Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, saw through the illusion. He ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet he wrote to himself in quiet moments, "Do not waste what remains of your life in thinking about others, when you do so neglecting your own soul." For Marcus, virtue was not a word carved in marble or written in laws. It was the living essence of a good life. To him, virtue meant aligning your actions with your deepest principles, regardless of whether anyone sees, applauds, or rewards you. It meant choosing integrity over convenience, kindness over cruelty, wisdom over ignorance, and courage over comfort. He believed that the purpose of life was not pleasure, power, or fame, but goodness. Not the goodness that seeks credit, but the goodness that flows naturally from understanding what it means to be human. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That was his challenge, not to debate ethics endlessly, but to live them. Yet living virtuously is far from easy, because to live with virtue means to stand still when the world runs wild. It means to remain honest when deceit is rewarded, to remain kind when cruelty seems easier, to remain just when no one is watching. It means, in a sense, to go against the current of human weakness. Marcus knew this struggle well. Every day he sat upon the throne surrounded by flattery, manipulation, and politics. But he reminded himself that the emperor's robes did not make the man. his choices did. He wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Virtue for Marcus was not a word carved in marble or written in laws. It was the living essence of a good life. To him, virtue meant aligning your actions with your deepest principles, regardless of whether anyone sees, applauds, or rewards you. It meant choosing integrity over convenience, kindness over cruelty, wisdom over ignorance, and courage over comfort. He believed that the purpose of life was not pleasure, power, or fame, but goodness. Not the goodness that seeks credit, but the goodness that flows naturally from understanding what it means to be human. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That was his challenge. Not to debate ethics endlessly, but to live them. Yet living virtuously is far from easy, because to live with virtue means to stand still when the world runs wild. It means to remain honest when deceit is rewarded, to remain kind when cruelty seems easier, to remain just when no one is watching. It means, in a sense, to go against the current of human weakness. Marcus knew this struggle well. Every day he sat upon the throne, surrounded by flattery, manipulation, and politics. But he reminded himself that the emperor's robes did not make the man. His choices did. He wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Virtue for Marcus was not perfection, it was effort. It was the daily practice of self-awareness and self-correction. He saw himself as a student of the soul, constantly learning to master his impulses, to act with reason instead of reaction. When he failed, and he did not fall into shame or despair. He simply returned to the path, knowing that the pursuit of virtue was endless, but always worth it. To live virtuously is to live in harmony with nature, not the nature of the forests or the seas, but the nature of reason within each of us. We were born, he said, with the ability to think, to choose, and to love. When we act with reason and compassion, we live according to our nature. When we act with selfishness, anger, or greed, we turn against it, and that inner conflict becomes the source of our suffering. In our modern world, we often confuse success with virtue. We praise ambition, but forget humility. We celebrate confidence, but ignore compassion. We admire wealth, but overlook honesty. Marcus would say, these are not signs of greatness, but distractions from it. Because true greatness, he believes, is moral, not material. Virtue asks for quiet strength, the strength to do what's right when no one is watching. It is the voice that says, I could lie, but I won't. I could take more, but I have enough. I could seek revenge, but I will forgive. And in those silent victories, invisible to the world, the soul becomes stronger than any empire. Marcus wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Simple words, yet almost impossible to live by, in a world that rewards appearance over authenticity. But the Stoic path was never meant to be easy, it was meant to be pure. Virtue also means serving others. For Marcus, justice was the highest expression of goodness. He saw himself not as a ruler above men, but as a servant of the common good. He believed that every human being shared a spark of reason, that we are all citizens of the same universe. He wrote, what injures the hive injures the bee. To harm others, therefore, is to harm yourself. Imagine a world where people lived by that truth, where every action was guided not by gain, but by goodness. A world where doing what's right mattered more than being seen doing it. That is the world Marcus envisioned, even while standing in the noise and corruption of Rome. And perhaps this is what makes his wisdom so timeless, because even now, 20 centuries later, the same temptations surround us. Ego, greed, vanity, distraction. The only difference is the scale, yet the antidote remains the same: virtue. Virtue gives direction to the soul. Without it, success feels empty, pleasure fades quickly, and power becomes poison. But when virtue is your compass, even the smallest act, a kind word, an honest choice, a moment of patience, becomes a victory. It transforms ordinary life into something sacred. Virtue also frees you from the opinions of others. When you live according to your principles, you no longer need validation. You no longer chase approval because your peace comes from within. Marcus wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." He saw that the mind enslaved by reputation can never be at peace. Virtue breaks those chains, allowing you to live truthfully, not performatively. To practice virtue is to become unshakable, not because life stops challenging you, but because your foundation no longer depends on anything outside yourself. You know who you are, you know what you stand for, and that knowledge becomes your shield. This does not mean you will never fall. Marcus fell many times. He doubted, he grew weary, he faced injustice and despair, but he always returned to one question: what is the right thing to do? And in answering it, he found peace again. Virtue demands awareness, the constant observation of your thoughts, words, and actions. It asks, are you acting out of fear or love? Out of pride or truth? Out of anger or understanding? Every choice reveals your character. Every reaction shapes your destiny. In this way, virtue is not an abstract ideal. It is a living practice, built moment by moment. It is forged in silence, in decisions no one sees, in temptations resisted, and kindness freely given. When you live by virtue, you begin to feel a quiet strength rising within you, not arrogance, but peace. You are no longer torn by contradictions. You move through the world with clarity, humility, and grace. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. Marcus Aurelius never sought to be remembered as a great emperor. He wanted to be remembered, if at all, as a good man. A man who tried in every moment to live according to nature, to reason, and to virtue. And that, perhaps, is the lesson for us all. Fame fades, wealth fades, even empires fall. But virtue endures, because it is not made of stone or gold, but of the soul itself. To live with virtue is to live in harmony with your true nature. It is to look at the world with all its chaos and beauty and say, I will do my part well. That, Marcus would say, is enough. That is victory. That is peace.